Okay, so we've talked about what I know, which is that I went to work for a tech company owned by some southern oligarchs, quickly became known as a rising star, and very shortly someone was brought in from an elite, someone who grew up in an elite Chicago political family and then came through the Silicon Valley tech scene via being an early Netflix employee, was brought in, partnered with me, and she then proceeded to love bomb me and mirror me and otherwise entrap me, and eventually started until she could blackmail me and psychologically bind me up to her. And she, appears to have been some sort of an energy vampire. Whether she accomplished this through psychological manipulation or witchcraft, I'll leave that to you guys to decide for yourselves. But one way or another, she definitely seemed to have accomplished that goal. And then what I strongly suspect, which is that she was part of some sort of polyamorous black magic doing cult, ritualistic cult of some sort. I don't like the word satanic, but that's how some people would call it. And that she may or may not have killed her husband. I can't say. I wouldn't put it past her. And she may have been grooming me to do the job for her. I don't know. That's just a theory. That's what I know or strongly suspect. To get into the rest of it, now we got to jump the crazy train, and assume that the cult stuff is real, and that the black magic stuff is real. Which, again, like I've explained before, I was an atheist for 50 years. If I'd told myself this story 2 or 3 months ago, I'd think it sounded crazy too. What's up, dog? Someone's dog showed up. But I guess to explain why I, think maybe it wasn't so crazy, and it's not so crazy now, is how this whole thing unfolded. How did I get away from her? And to answer that, well, I guess we'll start going back a couple months ago. I was watching a lot of YouTube videos and doing a lot of mostly research on the stock market, but that would lead me down to some right wing, because just the nature of people who do stock market commentary, that leads you into some right wing rabbit holes, and that led me into some religious rabbit holes, and that led me down to some tarot reader rabbit holes. And I started getting all these tarot readings that started to seem like she was manifesting me or something. And I wrote a poem, and at first because I was still kind of under her love bomb spell, I was kind of wishy-washy about it, but it was kind of explaining, the song was about how, I was never, it was never what you thought it was, but as I got to writing it, more and more I started intuitively getting weird headlines through the YouTube videos, telling me more and more that I needed to break it off with her, is best I can explain it right now. And so I did. I changed the poem, made a Facebook post about it that made it clear that, look, this is over. If you ever wanted me, you lost your chance. Whatever. It's done with. I'm done with you. Bye. And as soon as I did that, shit really got weird. That wound up being the night that I met God. And it, as I've talked about, and think I'm crazy or not, as a big beam of light hit me in the fucking head. Another beam of light grabbed me by the feet while I'm sitting on the couch and starts washing my feet, what it felt like, at least. maybe I'm just, imagining that because of the Jesus narrative of doing that. But I've never been a Christian, so why would I do that? If I was going to hallucinate something, I'd hallucinate the Buddha, probably. It felt very real. And basically, God told me that he told me to break it off with her because she was trying to manifest me, because her plan had been to kill me to take my house. Apparently things aren't going well with her business now, or with her boy toy husband that she's with now, or something. I don't know. Again, it was, God hit me in the head with a beam of light. It was a pretty hectic moment. I'm not going to say I got all the details exactly, but that was the gist I got from it, was that she was going to try and, come back and be lovey-dovey with me again, and oh yeah, now I want to be with you, and I guess marry me and then kill me to take the house, kind of like I think she did for Karsten. Didn't mean to say his real name, but I guess it is. So that's why I'm inclined to think that the cult stuff was real, and everything that I thought about all that was actually real. And believe me or not, from this point forward, we're gonna assume that it is. Although it may not be that. After learning that, then I actually changed my mind about whether she actually killed her husband. Now I'm kind of thinking that he may have actually done it himself, because he had to be sacrificed when they failed to kill me in 2012. Believe it or not, again, I know it sounds crazy. January of 2020, that same year, 2012, I was in a car accident out of nowhere. I'm on the interstate, pull up to a traffic jam, and a car behind me comes flying into me at 70 miles an hour, does not stop, winds up in my trunk, spins my car around. I walk out without a scratch. Not a scratch on me. And according to what I was being downloaded by God while I was being hit in the head, it was the angels were looking out for me. They had, and that car crash had been because the cult was doing death spells on me, trying to sacrifice me for some reason. And again, I remind you, I know it sounds crazy. But everything I've experienced, I have to believe it's real. And that ever since I had for like a week or so after this all happened, when I wrote the poem and talked to God, it was kind of a blurry time. It came to me that after writing the poem, they started doing death spells on me again. And maybe still trying to do them. I'm not entirely sure at this point, but apparently, Jesus says, "No weapons formed against me shall prosper," and all that. And the angels are looking out for me, I guess, and haven't let any of them work, I guess. Lucky for me, I don't know what I deserved. I was an atheist. I don't know why he picked me, but thanks. That's all I can say. Thanks, angels. Well, one of the things that they mentioned was, so apparently that when they do the death spells and they weren't working on me, the spells were being returned to sender. And it was saying that she was working with some other practitioners in the cult. And if you'll go back in my feed, you'll notice the first video I posted was when I put on my coat and I stood up and sang, "Stand in the light," that little piece. I think that was March 28th. About a week later, I looked up, and that same night, it turns out, a woman named Van Tucker died. Van Tucker was this woman's mentor, partner in some issues. And she was a big wig in the Nashville music scene's banking industry, a founder of a bank or something. I don't even know, but but she died that very night while I was singing "Stand in the Light." It'll get you through it. Did she die because a spell was returned to sender? Again, it sounds crazy to me, but it's also starting to sound very real to me. And for the next several weeks, month or so, I was waking up at 3 a.m. with weird dreams, or somebody would try to kill me in my dreams, and I'd be yanked out right at the last second and wake up, at 3 a.m. or something, and it just happened night after night after night. Like again, as if Archangel Michael was there pulling me out the minute the spell was starting to happen. And again, I'm just going to say it over and over again. I know how crazy this sounds. And yet, everything I've felt and put together, over the last couple months, and piecing memories back over the last 15, 16, 17 years, I have to believe it's real. And I guess I'll stop it here for now, and we'll talk some more later. But it's yeah. This is what brought me to God, and why I'm now a believer, because I'm not dead. That's why I'm a believer now.